A road is made to get us from point A to point B, typically with haste in mind, whereas a trail is essentially a physical representation of a relationship between people and place. The earth pushes back at our desire to travel to a certain place. We weave and wind along contours or between plants or over boulders, trying to find the easiest path that lies on the land. My name is Dillon Osleger. I'm the Executive Director of Sage Trail Alliance. I'm a trail builder, an environmental scientist, and policy advocate for public lands. I think the word roam is funny in that there are different scales of such a thing. I've been fortunate enough to travel a lot of the world to ride my bike, but these days, roaming to me, it entails being at home. I want to understand the place in which I live, to feel a connection with what came before me. So when I go out, I'm mapping out large routes that are going to take me 7 to 10 hours on trails that I may have been on before or ones that I haven't. I usually go in with questions of where does it lead and why? Are there traces of who built this trail? What I've found is that any good adventure should take longer than you expect it to and leaves you with more questions than answers. Sage Trail Alliance is a long-standing trail stewardship nonprofit in Central California. We do trail stewardship, design, and building from about Santa Maria all the way down to Ventura and Ojai, California, with a focus on restoration post-wildfire flooding and then on equity and access. I've been doing trail volunteerism and stewardship since I was a kiddo. Kind of got stuck into it with the hiking group down in the Berryessa National Monument area, and then in 2019 with the Thomas Fire, most of the trails that I trained on were burned. When you ride bikes for part of your living and all the trails are burned and unrideable, no one else is going to fix them for you. That was kind of the moment where I started taking a bigger role in the nonprofit. Now my purpose with bikes is kind of to understand the context.
Yeah, so that's a mortar bowl. So here they're bringing up acorns and they're grinding it up in this and they're making a paste. But yeah, that bowl right there is probably 4,000 to 11,000 years old.
Here in Ojai, part of my love for it is this complex history of the western US. Ojai Valley is named after the indigenous village of Ojai. It was later settled by the Spanish. There are maps from the 1800s that show use of this land up here for sheep ranching. If you go back deep enough in trails and really take the time to step off the trail and look at different springs or foundations of old cabins, there are 4,000 to 11,000 year old indigenous cultures. Very few of these trails have been built for recreational use. Nowadays they're mostly lost. Reversing that loss is really what I've done here to create a living and a purpose. It makes me care to know that I'm upkeeping this sense of history. You also have to balance that with environmental need. I only really build trails in places that don't have access, kind of in this systems-based approach. So in Ventura, working on building a couple dozen miles of trail over the next several years, I think the only way you're going to get people to care is to give them access and let them figure it out for themselves. I think adventure is this sense of maybe why you belong, and adventure can be any size. Going anywhere where you haven't been before kind of opens that world up. It makes you more part of it. There's a sense of ecology and deep ecology. To truly understand it isn't just scientific facts, but understanding how we relate to it. I think the same thing can be said for human nature and sport. Going out into the negative space on a map is like one of the most fun things you can possibly do and really builds yourself as a human.